So let's take a look at our vac form parts in the Banshee kit. Opening up the pack, we've got two pieces here. We've obviously got the spinner here, which we'll deal with later in the video, and we've also got our vac formed canopy here, which is, when you receive it, it will have a protective coat on it, just to sort of protect from scratches and that sort of thing, so you get a nice clear canopy. This one's got a white on. It may be blue, but don't worry, it is clear. The protective layer just needs peeling off. But before we actually peel that layer off, we can cut the canopy out. The canopy itself is the part that exists here. The rest of this is just the carrier that forms when it's vac formed. So I find the easiest way to do this is to actually cut. Now I know also that the protective film is, I'm just trying to establish whether it's on the inside or the outside. I think it's on the, yeah, it's on the outside. So what you can do, if you so wish, just grabbing, you can actually run around there with a pencil. Well, you can do it with a pen if you like, a biro, something like that, and just mark that line where we're going to be cutting. Then it just becomes a little more obvious. So the pencil easily goes into that junction. It's taking a little while for it to shed its lead. Anyway, you get the idea. Probably been easier with a biro, but I don't think I've got one here. So so now we can start cutting the canopy out. Just get rid of that bag as well. Just very carefully going around, following the line that I've just created. Obviously you only get a single chance to cut this out, so we can always sand it should you cut out too much, but obviously it's difficult to glue stuff back on. Go. So now I can just give that edge a quick sand, and it doesn't matter if I scratch the edge here because we have got a little bit of vinyl material that goes around the edge that helps attach it to the fuselage. And also hides anything untoward at the edges of the canopy. go. So we've now got our canopy off. Now before we do anything else with it, we're going to test fit it on our air race. There we go. Doing that on screen. So you can see the sort of greyed area here, and that's approximately where you want to sit it. Now you can play with the position slightly by a few millimeters back and forth. I like it as far back as I can get it. Just looks a little bit slicker on the aircraft profile itself. And what you want to make sure is that all of the edges sort of neatly come into contact with the fuselage itself. So, and what you can do, if you've there's a little bit of play at the side there, you can actually just sort of squash this together slightly, not overgo, because you can crease it, but not over push it, but you can sort of bring it a little bit further together like so. And it's quite close to the edges down at the side parts here, but you get a feel for where it's going to go. It can be a little bit slippery till you get the okay. So I'm going to put it around about there, so just hiding the grey graphic at the front there. Cool. Right, now let's get our our cockpit comb or combing, and you'll notice on here you've got a little triangle here, which is in fact an arrow, and that's to show you that this is the forward part, and that goes to the rear of the cockpit, so it's around that way, like so. Now let's peel off the protective coating. There we go. We've got a nice clear canopy to deal with. So let's just peel some of our combing off. Now this is a relatively low tack vinyl. It's a little more hard wearing than the standard stickers, which are very lightweight and quite high tack. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to start the combing off at the center front, and then just let it stick all the way around like so. What I'm trying to do is avoid it rippling anywhere. So you'll notice it doesn't completely follow the canopy all the way around, but it's pretty darn close. So there we go. We'll do the same on the other side. This so it can be, as you can see, it can be attached and detached as required. And it just takes a little while just to make sure that it all sits down quite happily. around the edge of the cockpit with some overlap. So just overlap it at the back here as well, like so. So it should just about meet. If you do get a little bit of an overlap, not a problem. You can always trim any little bits that seem to be sticking out, but there we go. We've got our combing on. I'll just clean up the inside there, because obviously once we've got it on, it's sealed. So just removing any flotsam or jetsam, bits and pieces, like so, and then we can pop it on here. It's always catching on that on the edge of the cockpit. So. Now what you might find is that the combing itself doesn't provide enough grip to hold the canopy on. This is very... There we go. It's up on the other side now. Right, let's get the... Oh no, that's fine. I just need to centralize it a little bit more. So that can pop off quite easily. So what I'm going to do is actually add a few little blobs of glue around the edge there that'll help adhere it to the fuselage itself. It needs a little bit of a clear. Go. So I'll add a little blob at the front there, and a little at the back, like so. And then just on some of the areas of the sticky back. There we go. And pop it back on again. There we go. That seems to be sitting pretty much where I want it. So there we go, canopy on. It's a pretty painless process, although I made a bit of a meal of that one. But once it's on, it really sort of finishes off the look of the aircraft. But not quite, because obviously we have a propeller to pop on the front here, and on that propeller we also have a lovely spinner. So we shall get the plastics for that, and I'll show you what to do. Now, there we go. That made an awful noise. So we've got to cut these two parts out. The spinner comes in two parts. So you can see there, you've got the nose cone itself, and then you've got this sort of adapter that allows us to pop it onto the prop itself. Now you can, and I would suggest, painting up the cone itself, or you can use a Sharpie to colour it. So like a permanent marker, I should say. Sharpie's a brand name that we have here. So you can actually use that, and it takes quite well to the nose cone. So I'm just going to do that, but let's pretty easy colouring in process. What I probably will do though is once I'm happy with the colouring, I'll add some varnish to it. So I've got a gloss and a matte varnish. I'll probably just use the gloss, so it's a nice shiny finish. So I'll crack on with that, and then we'll come back when I've got this all nicely prepared, and we'll start cutting it out. Well, I'm very happy with how this turned out, seeing as it was only using some black permanent marker and then some varnish. You can see it's a sort of nice shiny shell finish on that. A little bit of the old acrylic gloss varnish, and yeah, it's not perfect, not a dust-free environment, so there are a few little blemishes on it, but that's looking rather nice. So now to cutting it out. Well, let's have a bit of a practice first on the inner part of the spinner, and I'm just going to use scissors to sort of roughly cut it out, well, as accurately as possible. Just this part anyway. Obviously these flank parts here these are going to be removed, so you don't need to worry about being particularly accurate there. But obviously coming around here, this is going to sit inside the main spinner, but obviously we want it to do the job. So let's get rid of that. So what I do now is just, so there's a bit of a lip on there, I'll just sand it slightly. And then this side too. And then I'm going to switch to using a knife, and in fact I'm just going to do that little trick again of with a pencil. I'm just going to mark where that cut line is. Just makes it a little more obvious. When the plastic's white like this, it tends to reflect and create shadow, so that it becomes quite difficult to see where to go. And also at my age, with my failing eyesight, every little helps. So it's quite easy stuff to cut. The more intricate areas, like the sort of the apex of here, I always tend to take a few cuts rather than try to go through the whole way. So we can now basically, where we've cut now, we want to sort of remove it that way too. We want to take a sort of a slither of material away from under there, like so. Because the propeller is going to be coming out of this space. It's best to have the flat surface there rather than on the vertical. So this just needs a little bit of finessing. Do the same on this side as well. Of course, it always helps to have a sharpish knife. So and the other thing we need to do is that little nipple on top there, we just need to slice off. You've got to be careful here because obviously you're either pushing or pulling towards your fingers, but if you just sort of rotate the part whilst putting a little bit of pressure right at the base, that protrusion, and hopefully you can do it without slicing your finger off. There we go. So now let's just grab. This is the prop for the Banshee Air Race. It's a 40-40. It's quite a small prop, but obviously the motor takes full advantage. So we can pop that on there and just see how it sits. Probably do with taking some more off the back edge here. So I'm going to just take that right back. I'm just going to take a line right back to the back edge so it's continuous. And same on this side too, like so. And then the idea is that obviously you pop that onto the prop and then that goes through there. The rubber prop adapter goes through there and then through the prop, like so. So if that's all sitting neatly now, then we've done our job. We may need to trim this a little bit more once we've got this free, but I'd say I'm pretty happy with how that's sitting on there. Obviously this has got to be nice and snug right up against it. There we go. So on to the more important, the more visible spinner itself. So once again we'll make our lives easier by removing the unwanted plastic. And try not to ruin my nice shiny spinner. Find that the acrylic varnish tends to dry a lot quicker than an enamel solvent-based varnish, so you don't sort of have to wait overnight for it to cure. It's only actually had one coat as well, so that's good. Okay, repeat the process, but without the benefit of the pencil line. Go. So you can see better on this where the that white area there needs to come off by carving it back along the along that face there rather than that face there. So I'll give that a go now. Why not? One thing I want to try and avoid doing is doing any sanding on this. May have to, but we'll see. Certainly around the base anyway. In fact, I'll do that now while I've got this little handle here. So right. Don't delay it any longer. Still clinging on. Go. And once again, just move that or remove that white line. There we go. Right, let's see how that sits. Oh, that looks pretty good to me. It's not, can't see any of the white of the primary, this part here, showing through. So that all looks very good. Just going to sand that very carefully. This is the base of it. And of course the other thing we can do is, with our Sharpie, we can just recolor those edges. Don't think I'll varnish, but at least we can hide any white. Go this side as well. Also, just on the back edge, go. We could actually just do back edge of that as well, like so. Fantastic. Great stuff. Well, now all that's left to do is install it onto the aircraft. So let's bring on our air race, adorned with its new canopy, and let's just take the hatch off. And what we're going to do is actually install it straight onto the motor like so, without putting this spinner on, and then we'll attach the spinner thereafter. Now, during the process of making the prop adapters, and obviously making the motor, there is usually some grease around, which can affect the way that the prop stays on, or the friction that's used to keep the prop onto the motor. So it's actually a little tip here, just to make sure it's retained, is I've put a tiny bit of glue on the tip of the prop shaft there, and then not only does that help lubricate it so that it's easier to actually attach the prop, but it also, once it's dry, provides enough friction, just take that up again, enough friction that the prop is retained on the motor. So there we go. Right, now to attach our spinner onto the, I suppose we'll call it an adapter. And we're just going to use some of the glue. So we're just going to put it onto the surfaces that come into contact with the shell. Like so. And that, if we've cut it correctly, should run absolutely true, which that does, which is fantastic. Right, we'll just let that dry off, and we've pretty much got our Banshee complete. The only thing I need to show you now is how to install the battery and how to set up the SR3X stabilization if you indeed have that on board. But there we have one finished Banshee air race.